I woke up this morning to discover that Jeff Bezos spent $5.5 billion to experience 4 minutes of weightlessness, while on the same day, 828 million people went to bed hungry. But here's what actually keeps me awake. This wasn't just an expensive joyride for a man whose midlife crisis could fund small nations. It was the opening move in a new form of colonialism that makes the British Empire look territorially modest. This isn't science fiction, it's economic reality disguised as space exploration. While we've been debating healthcare costs, 3 billionaires have quietly divided the cosmos among themselves like they're choosing dinner party seats. Except the dinner party is the observable universe and seats cost more than most countries' GDP. We're witnessing space transformation from humanity's final frontier into the ultimate gated community, complete with private security and membership fees starting at approximately $1 billion. The mathematics are staggering. SpaceX is valued at $180 billion, more than 50 African nations combined. Blue Origin has received $10 billion from Bezos personally, exceeding NASA's entire annual budget. Virgin Galactic charges $450,000 per 90-minute suborbital flight, making it the most expensive transportation ever devised by humans who looked at yacht ownership and thought, this needs more rockets. I've spent months analysing this space economy, and what emerges is absurd cosmic satire. We're creating a future where access to stars depends on affording private space travel, while billions lack clean water, electricity, or healthcare. It's like building luxury Mars condominiums while your neighbours are homeless, except the neighbours include most of human civilization. The strategic implications of private space colonization become clear when you examine who controls what in our extraterrestrial economy. This isn't random entrepreneurship, it's systematic territorial acquisition disguised as innovation. SpaceX has launched over 5,000 Starlink satellites, creating a private internet constellation circling Earth 17 times daily. Elon Musk personally controls more orbital infrastructure than most sovereign nations, built with the efficiency of someone assembling furniture. Except this furniture provides internet to continents and could spy on every outdoor human activity. This orbital empire is mind-bending geopolitically. SpaceX's Starlink will include 42,000 satellites, 5 times more than all nations combined have launched in space exploration history. One American company is deploying more space infrastructure than the rest of human civilization managed collectively. It's like cornering the market on breathable air, except instead of air, it's global communication ability. Amazon's Project Cooper plans 3,200 additional satellites to compete with Starlink, meaning 2 American companies will control more orbital real estate than China, Russia, and the European Union combined. These satellites provide global broadband but create information dominance, the ability to control human communication from space while charging subscription fees. When your Wi-Fi depends on infrastructure owned by people who sell books and electric cars, you've created dependency structures making medieval feudalism look cooperative. Territorial ambitions extend beyond Earth's orbit. SpaceX announced Mars colony plans for 1 million people by 2050, with tickets priced at $500,000 per person. Mars colonization will be limited to people affording luxury metropolitan homes, creating humanity's first planet-sized gated community. The plan reserves an entire world for people affording $500,000 transportation costs, urban planning that would make pharaohs jealous. While billionaires market space ventures as civilian enterprises focused on exploration, modern space development has become indistinguishable from military expansion with better PR departments. SpaceX holds $2.9 billion in Defense Department contracts for satellite launches, reconnaissance, and national security space operations. When your rocket company has multi-billion-dollar military contracts, you're not sending tourists to space, you're building orbital warfare infrastructure while charging admission. The strategic relationship between private space companies and military agencies has created dual-use technology, weapons development disguised as commercial space travel. SpaceX's Falcon Heavy can deliver 64 tons to orbit, meaning it could deploy military satellites, surveillance equipment, or weapons platforms while maintaining legal fiction as civilian transportation. It's like operating a delivery company specializing in items that could end civilization if used improperly. China has responded by accelerating its space program with systematic efficiency, making NASA look like performance art. The Chinese space station operates for 15 years with laboratories for experiments Beijing calls peaceful scientific research, and American intelligence calls potential weapons development in zero gravity. The station orbits Earth every 90 minutes, meaning Chinese astronauts observe most planetary surface twice daily while conducting experiments that may involve developing satellite-disabling technologies. Russia's response has been characteristically direct. Moscow developed anti-satellite weapons capable of destroying orbital infrastructure, demonstrated satellite jamming technology, and tested satellite inspection vehicles that can approach and disable other nations' space assets. When countries develop abilities to shoot down internet satellites, we've moved beyond peaceful exploration into orbital arms races, making the Cold War look like neighborhood property disputes. The European Space Agency accelerated their Galileo satellite navigation system specifically to reduce American GPS dependence. When civilian satellite navigation is designed to maintain independence from potential adversaries, you're admitting space infrastructure became national security assets disguised as consumer technology. The financial mechanics of space commercialization reveal a system so economically distorted that it makes traditional capitalism look rational. Virgin Galactic has sold 700 tickets at $450,000 each, generating $315 million for 4 minutes of weightlessness and temporary bragging rights. The cost per minute is $112,500, making it more expensive than hiring the New York Philharmonic for private concerts with Michelin-starred meals, except instead of music and dining, you get motion sickness and Earth views you could approximate with satellite imagery while jumping on trampolines. Space tourism represents Veblen goods, products whose demand increases with price because their value lies in exclusivity rather than utility. Space travel became the ultimate status symbol for people who've purchased everything else money can buy, including sports teams, private islands, and politicians. When your customer base consists of people for whom cost is irrelevant, you've created markets operating on principles, making traditional economists weep. But real space money isn't tourism, it's resource extraction and orbital monopolization. Asteroid mining companies estimate single metallic asteroids contain more platinum than ever mined on Earth, with some valued at quintillions of dollars. These numbers break the concept of money as currently understood. If someone successfully mines asteroids worth more than combined human civilization wealth, they'd own resources equivalent to hundreds of Earth economies, wealth concentration making medieval monarchs look middle class. SpaceX's Starlink generates over $1.4 billion annually, and the constellation isn't complete. Fully deployed, Starlink could serve 1 billion customers globally, generating revenue exceeding most nations' GDP. A single company would control global internet access from space while earning more than entire countries, exactly the economic concentration antitrust laws were designed to prevent, except those laws were written when monopolies were limited to single planets. Space economy has created orbital arbitrage, using space-based infrastructure to exploit regulatory differences between Earth jurisdictions. Companies launch satellites from countries with favorable regulations while serving countries with different legal frameworks, creating regulatory black holes where traditional governance becomes impossible. When business operates in voids between legal systems while circling the planet every 90 minutes, you've achieved libertarian dreams of commerce without oversight. Except the commerce involves controlling global communications. Space development has accelerated beyond Earthbound institutions' capacity to regulate, creating governance lag on a cosmic scale. International space law was written in 1967 when the most sophisticated technology was primitive rockets occasionally reaching the moon without exploding. These laws now govern orbital internet constellations, private space stations, asteroid mining, and Mars colonization by companies worth more than most countries. Researching this space economy has been unsettling because it reveals how quickly human civilization can be restructured around individuals with sufficient capital and rocket technology. We're creating futures where space access, orbital communications, and extraterrestrial resources depend entirely on maintaining relationships with tech billionaires who view Earth's governance as optional suggestions. The UN Office for Outer Space Affairs employs 12 people to oversee all global space activities, including commercial launches, military programs, and private exploration worth hundreds of billions. 12 people. Amazon's legal department probably has more lawyers handling shipping disputes than the UN has personnel managing humanity's space expansion. When global space governance involves fewer people than typical Starbucks staff, we've created regulatory frameworks making the Wild West look extensively supervised. Technological development speed has created regulatory capture in reverse. Instead of industries influencing regulations, space industries bypass government entirely by operating beyond terrestrial legal reach. When SpaceX launches 60 satellites simultaneously without meaningful international oversight, they're making unilateral decisions about orbital infrastructure affecting every human while answering to no democratically elected authority. Commercial companies now launch more rockets than all government agencies combined, meaning most space development occurs under corporate rather than democratic control. Private entities make decisions about satellite deployment, orbital traffic, and space resource utilization, determining humanity's space relationship for generations. But these decisions follow business logic rather than democratic input or international cooperation. Based on current trends and strategic calculations, 3 scenarios emerge for our space-dominated future, each more concerning than the last, suggesting our space expansion will replicate Earth's worst inequalities rather than transcending them. SpaceX, Blue Origin, and Virgin Galactic complete transformation from transportation companies into space-based nation-states with territories, populations, and economies. These orbital entities become more powerful than Earth governments because they control essential infrastructure, including global communications, navigation, and asteroid mining. Traditional nations discover they cannot maintain sovereignty when critical infrastructure exists beyond jurisdiction and is controlled by entities with no democratic accountability. Earth's governments become client states of orbital oligarchs who provide essential services for favorable treatment and regulatory exemptions. Democratic institutions prove unable to govern technologies operating beyond terrestrial boundaries. Citizens discover their internet, navigation, weather forecasting, and communications access depends entirely on maintaining relationships with orbital monopolists owing allegiance to no constitution. Space access remains limited to ultra-wealthy individuals and employees, creating permanent division between terrestrial humanity and orbital elites. Earth becomes resource extraction and waste disposal for space-based civilization, with billions living in degraded conditions while orbital cities enjoy unlimited asteroid resources. Climate change and resource depletion accelerate as wealthiest individuals relocate to space-based habitats, taking capital and technology while leaving environmental problems they helped create. Terrestrial governments lack resources for environmental crises because their tax base literally left the planet. Space economy operates as closed systems, serving fewer than 1 million ultra-wealthy, while Earth's remaining 8 billion compete for scarce resources on a planet viewed as raw material source. Cheap labour for orbital industries. Asterisk, asterisk, scenario 3, the orbital warfare timeline. Asterisk, asterisk. Competition for space resources triggers conflicts between space-based corporations and Earth-based nations, leading to warfare fought in orbit while civilians suffer consequences of satellite destruction and orbital debris. Traditional military forces prove inadequate for space conflicts, creating power imbalances, allowing orbital entities to threaten Earth-bound populations. China, Russia, and the United States engage in space races, prioritizing military capabilities over exploration, leading to orbital arms build-up, making the Cold War look restrained. Private space companies become military contractors, providing surveillance, communications disruption, and kinetic strike capabilities to highest bidders, selling military services to multiple governments simultaneously. Here's what disturbs me. We're recreating every mistake of colonialism, imperialism, and economic exploitation, except now we're doing it in space while congratulating ourselves for being innovative. The same people who created massive wealth inequality on Earth through technology monopolies are expanding those monopolies to include planets, asteroid belts, and orbital infrastructure affecting every human. I stare at satellite trackers watching SpaceX Starlink satellites pass overhead every few minutes like technological aurora, representing either future human connectivity or visible evidence of surrender to orbital oligarchy. These satellites provide internet to remote regions while creating dependencies on infrastructure controlled by individuals with no accountability to democratic institutions. Space race represents humanity's cosmic expansion filtered through the most inequitable economic system we've created. Instead of representing human achievement and cooperation, it's become a vehicle for extending terrestrial power structures beyond terrestrial governance reach. We're building futures where star access depends on relationships with tech billionaires, where planets are divided according to corporate ownership, and where solar system resources are controlled by entities viewing democratic oversight as quaint earthbound tradition. The cruel irony is that space technology possesses unprecedented capacity to solve terrestrial problems. Satellite monitoring could optimize agriculture. Space-based solar could provide clean energy. Asteroid mining could eliminate scarcity. But these capabilities serve markets of people who already have everything. We're using cosmic resources for orbital elite luxury rather than addressing fundamental problems affecting billions of terrestrial humans. The most maddening aspect is watching governments provide subsidies, exemptions, and infrastructure support to companies using public resources to build private space empires. NASA provides technical assistance to SpaceX while SpaceX competes with NASA. American taxpayers subsidize space infrastructure development that will be owned and controlled by private entities with no obligation to serve public interests. The next time you see a rocket launch, remember you're not witnessing technological achievement, you're watching construction of humanity's most exclusive gated community, spanning multiple planets and costing more than civilizations while serving fewer people than most cities. Space exploration transformed from species-level achievement into luxury service for individuals whose wealth exceeds entire nations' economic output. We've created space economy, treating cosmos like private country clubs with membership fees, excluding 99.99% of human civilization, while marketing this exclusion as progress. Every successful launch represents steps toward futures where space access, orbital infrastructure, and extraterrestrial resources depend entirely on affording services provided by orbital oligarchs answering to no democratic authority. The question isn't whether space colonization will succeed. It's happening, but only for people wealthy enough to afford tickets costing more than most people earn in lifetimes. The question is whether remaining civilization will accept futures where stars are reserved for orbital elites, while terrestrial billions compete for resources on planets viewed as disposable extraction zones. Every satellite launch, space tourism flight, and Mars colonization announcement represent steps toward cosmic apartheid disguised as human achievement. We're building futures dividing humanity between orbital elites and terrestrial masses, between planet owners and planet renters, between cosmic citizens and earthbound subjects. The final frontier became the ultimate frontier of inequality, and we're watching it happen while applauding engineering achievements, making our disenfranchisement technically feasible. Stars are no longer humanity's destiny. They're becoming humanity's most expensive real estate development, complete with HOA fees most can't afford and zoning laws written by people viewing democratic governance as earthbound anachronism.